Hey Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's Jean Nolan here. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Thank you for liking, thank you for commenting, thank you for sharing, thank you for subscribing and hitting the notifications button so you'll get notified about new videos. Let's dive into it. People have said time and time again, knowledge is power. I beg to differ. I think the application of knowledge is true power. What we know in and of itself doesn't really do much. What we do about and do with what we know is really, really what matters most. So today, I want to keep the eye on the ball. In these times that we're in of great awakening, of discernment, where everything is coming to light, we need to keep the eye on the ball. That means the balance between the spiritual and the physical. If we go out of balance, things don't work out. And so today we want to bring back a very important topic into focus so we can look at the solutions, what we can do, how we can prepare, how we can be solution makers for our communities and families. Just a few short days ago, an article came out by Zero Hedge that looked at 33 signs that show the coming food shortages, actually food catastrophes. And we highlighted a few of those for you that we're going to go through. We're also going to talk about weather manipulation, which is very important in conjunction with this. And then we're going to move on to the solutions. Please stick around. I think this is very, very helpful, important. All right, let's look into it. So number one, a sign that we are really in for major food shortages is the hard red winter wheat crop in the United States this year was the smallest since 1963. But in 1963, there were only 182 million people living in this nation. Today, our population has grown to 329 million. So let that sink in. This hard red winter wheat crop is at the level of 1963 when we had 182 million versus 329 million people in this country. Another sign is that U.S. tomato harvest will come in at just 2.5 million tons in 2022. That is over 1 million tons lower than a normal year. Also, year-to-date shipments of carrots in the United States are down 45%. Let these numbers sink in, not to scare you, just to have an awareness of what's happening. Also, thanks to the endless drought, the total number of cattle in Oregon is down 41%, in New Mexico it's down 43%, and in Texas it's down 50%. As a matter of fact, I don't think the drought in and of itself or the heat, as it has been reported over the summer, are the only reasons cattle are dying and cattle production is down by these amazing numbers, much as half of the production down. And I don't even like this word, cattle or meat production, just to be clear. I've just learned something that we've long suspected is that the mass killings of cattle, of herds of cattle, has actually most likely been on purpose, and that weapons were used that the public doesn't even have knowledge exists. This is coming from a source close to the military, and actual high-ranking military people are saying this is what they are assuming. Also, one beef producer in Oklahoma is now predicting that ground beef could eventually top $50 per pound. This is coming from beef producers again. Overall, this is the worst multi-year mega drought in the United States in 1,200 years. Let all these numbers sink in. We're going to dive into some of the reasons why we think this is happening again. But let's move forward. Europe also, and this is the problem, right? We're not seeing this problem just in the United States. We're seeing them in Europe. We're seeing them in Asia. We're seeing them in Africa. We're seeing them everywhere. Europe is currently experiencing the worst drought that it has seen in 500 years. In some parts of Central Europe, river levels have fallen so low that hunger stones are being revealed for the first time in centuries. Now, if you don't know what hunger stones are, these stones were embedded into a river during droughts to mark the water level as a warning to future generations that they will have to endure famine-related hardships if the water sinks to this level again. So they put these stones in the riverbeds when the water came down, so future generations will know, oh damn, if we see this stone now, it means we will have some major food problems because we won't be able to bring in the harvest and whatnot. So these are all very important things, and so much has changed, of course, technologically, but some major fundamental things haven't changed. If you don't have water, access to water, it gets very, very difficult to grow things. In crop losses in France, UK, and Germany are expected to be between 35 and 50%. That's what they're expecting the losses will be. This is huge. This is up to half of the crops. Very, very big. Some farmers in Italy have already lost up to 80% of their harvest. Moving on, agricultural production in Somalia will be down about 80% this year. Listen, these are all but fallout numbers. These means whole countries are basically not delivering on some of their regular foods. So this is huge. This is not to be underestimated. In China, they're facing the worst drought that they have ever experienced in recorded history. Now, if this data is correct or not, we don't know, but still, I mean, very, very revealing facts here. A third of the entire nation of Pakistan was underwater after recent floods absolutely devastated the nation, and agricultural areas were hit particularly hard. As a result, the vast majority of the crops in the country have been washed away. This is big stuff, people. We're talking Pakistan, a huge, huge Asian country. We're talking China, one of the biggest countries in the world. We're talking Somalia, France, Italy, Germany, UK, and on, the United States, Canada, on it goes. Also, the prices of some fertilizers have tripled since 2021, tripled, while the prices of some other fertilizers have actually quadrupled, so 4 times. And you have to comprehend something here. This might, under some circumstances, still be manageable for industrial scale farmers. But this is unmanageable, unaffordable for small farmers. They cannot afford to pay triple or quadruple on anything. They are having a hard time as it is because they have been basically out-monopolized by these huge, huge industrial scale agricultural corporations in bed with the likes of Bayer and Monsanto, who are making it increasingly difficult for people to grow on a small scale, organic, healthy food. Last but not least, one payment company is reporting that the number of Americans using their app to take out short-term loans for groceries has risen by 95%. This is very, very revealing. We are not just seeing this incredible orchestrated move on the food supply chain, because make no mistake, this isn't by accident. These 33 signs, of which we've pointed out just a few, are not even taken into consideration. The more than, I think, 150 large-scale fires now in food plants all across the United States and other countries, they're not taking into account the draconian laws that are being now imposed in the European Union, in the Netherlands, and other countries against the farmers. So this is not even taking into account the whole picture. This is just the things that you can kind of put out in the mainstream, and still this is horrific and shocking, but make no mistake, this is their plan. If they can control the food, if they can control the food supply, they know they can control people. But we have to empower ourselves with this knowledge and see what we can do about it, because it doesn't have to be this way. And we'll get into the solutions very shortly, but we want to say something, because people are saying, well, what can you do about droughts? It's just the weather. Of course, people will say climate change, but something very interesting. Still to this date in 2022, there are hundreds of millions, billions of people on the planet who actually think weather control, weather manipulation, geoengineering, weather engineering is just a conspiracy. Well, let me read this to you from the Smithsonian magazine, okay? The Smithsonian magazine. They have a good collection of information on this topic on their website, actually. And they write, in August of 1953, the United States formed the President's Advisory Committee on Weather Control. In 1953, its stated purpose was to determine the effectiveness of weather modification procedures and the extent to which the government should engage in such activities. Methods that were envisioned by both American and Soviet scientists and openly discussed in the media during the mid-50s included using colored pigments on the polar ice caps to melt them and unleash devastating floods, releasing large quantities of dust into the stratosphere, creating precipitation on demand, and even building a dam fitted with thousands of nuclear-powered pumps across the Bering Straits. This dam, envisioned by a Russian engineer named Arkady Borisovich Markin, would redirect the waters of the Pacific Ocean, which would theoretically raise temperatures in cities like New York and London. Markin's stated purpose was to relieve the severe cold of the northern hemisphere, but American scientists worried about such weather control as a means to cause flooding. That's what they were discussing in the 50s, actually in the 40s and before that. But this is when it came to the public and the media. And interestingly enough, when we go and think about these things like weather modification, which of course countries are now doing openly, China, Saudi Arabia, I think Australia have come out pretty blatantly and said, we're doing this, and they're promoting it as something great. But who says that what we're seeing in the world today in terms of floods and droughts and all of that isn't at least partially, if not to a large extent, due to weather weapons? And interestingly enough, the New York Times published this on June 23rd, 1975. So again, this is a long time ago now. It was 48 years ago. The United States and the Soviet Union have reached virtual agreement on the draft of an accord to outlaw techniques for changing the weather for military purposes, American officials said today. Well, they're just saying changing the weather for military purposes. They're, of course, not saying they're not using it for other purposes. Now, listen, this is so long ago. This kind of technology, this kind of geoengineering capabilities are everywhere now. They're in private hands, in the hands of big corporations, government mercenaries, and all the above. And so we believe strongly, perhaps it's better to say we know that this is being manipulated and that the world is to be brought to its knees with hunger. So people will, willingly or unwillingly, submit to this New World Order Great Reset agenda. This is their plan. Again, it doesn't have to be this way. Every day I drive around when I do stuff and I go out and I meet with people around this beautiful country. Here in Tennessee, it's absolutely beautiful, rolling hills, great topography, great geography, the most amazing capabilities to grow food. We have lawns, more than you could possibly imagine. We have so much grass growing everywhere, and people paying so much attention to fertilizing the grass, mowing the grass, keeping it in a certain state, when we could actually begin growing food forests right now, growing freedom. That's why we have partnered with Jim Gale of Food Forest Abundance. That's why we talk about this so much, because we have the power to absolutely avoid these catastrophic food shortages that they want to impose on us. We have the power. If you cannot do it yourself, if you don't have land or a backyard that you can use, there's a good chance that you know someone. People can group together, get together. But I would encourage everyone with a backyard, with a green space, with any kind of land that you have control over, go right now, go to Food Forest Abundance. We put the link in the description and check out what they can do for you. It's basically an edible landscaping design. They will design the whole thing for you. They will make it perennial. So basically all the plants will keep coming back every year, and the fruits and the veggies, everything will keep coming back every year. They are doing it in the permaculture way. So it's basically almost very little to no work for you. And if you say, I don't have a green thumb, I don't know anything about it, they will even install it for you. They'll bring a team, they'll show you how it's done, they'll install it for you, and you will have a beautiful, edible food forest in your own backyard. It doesn't require a huge acreage. You can do this on even a fraction of an acre. So please begin now, communicate, start groups, get together, and do it right now. This is so important. Another thing that we always suggest, and we've put a whole video out on how to prepare that has more of that, more information in it. But one thing that we encourage people to look into also is emergency food. That's long-term storage food with a long shelf life, up to 25 years. It's kind of a peace of mind thing when really, the shit really hits the fan. You got this stuff and you can share it with others. And that's why we've proudly partnered with My Patriot Supply. All you got to do is go to preparewithinspired.com and you'll get a huge discount on their 3-month supply, their 4-week supply, and so forth. And of course, we want to make one thing abundantly clear. If we were just to come on here and give you the facts and not point to solutions, I think that would be horrific. People say, well, you're just trying to make some money off of this, when nothing could be further from the truth. We're simply pointing people to solutions and how to view this situation, because ultimately, what are all these emergencies in the world teaching us today, whether that's what happened over the past 2.5 years, whether that's the economy, the inflation, the political situation, the corruption, the food systems, everything is teaching us that here we need to bring the power back to ourselves, empower ourselves, empower our communities, become self-sufficient and self-reliant. So that all being said, please feel free to go anywhere to do these things. You don't have to use Food Forest Abundance. You don't have to go to preparewithinspired.com. There are other opportunities. There's farmers markets. Connect with your local farmers. Get seeds, get heirloom seeds that are pure and clean. Trade with other people, get in communication, become self-sufficient. That's all we desire to put out there. That's our inspiration. It is high time. There's no more time to waste. If you don't have the financial means right now to do this, go out and talk to people. I can promise you, if you talk to people, you will connect with the right ones. The right people will come together, the right energy, and things will become possible. All right, Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon.